Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And with this one, I wanted to cover the specialization Subtlety Rogue. This is a specialization that is quickly earning my love and affection. There is no other spec that I have played so far throughout my days and years of World of Warcraft where you can feel like you can really finesse and have complete control of every situation in every single game, especially playing double DPS in twos. If you're looking for a really good time, this is probably maybe my number one recommendation for a spec, especially if you're just looking at fun, pairing yourself up with a mage. I was playing with a feral druid in this instance, setting up double stuns into cyclones, having full control of your enemies, trying to find moments to retreat away, and then navigate through to find the quickest line to victory. If this type of gameplay sounds enticing to you, then this is definitely the spec that you want to check out. Initially, I was a bit worried. I was hesitant. I thought that, this is going to be daunting. And truthfully, there is no other spec that's going to play like Subtlety Rogue, which is why I had to just kind of boil it down to some basics for myself to be able to pick it up, because this was my first week on the specialization. And one of the first things that I started to realize was using Kidney Shot as kind of like an off-target crowd control effect and using Cheap Shot as the main kill target effect. So in this instance, using Kidney Shot on the Mistweaver to chain into a Cyclone, and then Shadow Dance into Cheap Shot on the Feral Druid. And all of your burst is going to pivot around your Symbols of Death, so you're going to want to be pairing Symbols of Death up with your Covenant ability and with your Shadow Dance at all times, and watching their cooldowns and making sure that they're all lining up at the same time so you can sync them up and send them for massive damage, because getting the anima charged combo points from Echoing Reprimand is very important for nailing massive burst damage. There is some flexibility in how you want to use your combo points throughout the fight. If you want to use Mark for Death for Kidney Shot at the beginning, or just build up some combo points and use it for a big double Abyss later on, and you're gonna have some choices. As you get more gear, I'm starting to lean towards the double Abyss, but I was pretty under geared in this clip. So like I said, the first point of strategy for our team is going to be, let's crowd control the Mistweaver. So my job is to stun into Cyclones, into Blinds, into Saps, saving my Vanish or my Shadow Dances around that timing so that I can guarantee that crowd control, and then cheap shotting the Feral Druid, catching targets away from their healer. In this specific instance, I open on the Mistweaver with a Mark for Death Kidney. I pop every cooldown to bait the Feral Druid to open on me. This then allows my Feral Druid to reverse open on theirs. Unfortunately, it looks like he got pulled out of stealth from the Berserk of the opposing Feral Druid, but our goal was to kind of kidney the Mistweaver, scare them with all my cooldowns, and then swap to the Feral Druid. And this does ultimately net us the trinket, at least in the Feral Druid. I've used my Crimson Vial here, and I've used my Kyrian Vial on the Berserk bleed against the Feral Druid. Really good idea to utilize that as Subtlety Rogue. And then I blind the Feral Druid on their trinket here and on their Berserk. And I'm just looking to try and keep them under crowd control. We've got a pretty solid win condition here, either with Shadowy Duel or with a Smoke Bomb on the Feral Druid. So removing them as a threat right now and not letting them get uptime with their cooldown was my main thought process, as opposed to kind of just blinding the Mistweaver and going after the Feral and getting the Mistweaver's trinket. So I'm just keeping the Feral out of the game, waiting for my Symbols of Death. You can see that with the purple icon, with a 4 turning into a 3, turning into a 2, into a 1. I want that Symbols purple icon to line up when we're going. So we Kidney Shot, Shadow Dance, Symbols of Death. I should have Symbols of Death here. I thought it came off cooldown. Kidney, Smoke Bomb with no trinket, and send as much damage as we can here using our anima charged combo points, Mistweaver trinkets, and revivals to heal the Feral Druid through the Smoke Bomb to be able to survive. But this now is trinket down for Feral, trinket down for Mistweaver, still putting us in a good position to either bash clone the healer or Kidney Shot clone the healer, and then stun the Feral Druid and go for damage. So still putting ourselves in a good position. Once we've lost the kill and we can see our Symbols of Death is not on cooldown, our goal is to run away and spend our combo points on getting Rupture on the kill target or getting our Slice and Dice up, so that way we can get the Recuperator Conduit. So this is kind of reducing our cooldowns as well. And I'm using Shadow Step to try and escape. So I'm Shadow Stepping up to the Mistweaver to run away. And I'm basically just trying to sync up everything with that purple icon, the Symbols of Death, with my Shadow Dance when we have stun DRs. And that's how I simplified it for myself to not be as intimidated with the spec. Here I moved forward to try and kick the Fleshcraft. Unfortunately, got rooted just 2 inches away from being able to kick into Kidney on the healer, and was looking to set up for the win here as my Symbols of Death is now available. So that's still kind of my plan at this point. Kidney the healer, send all my cooldowns on the Feral Druid. My Feral Druid ends up stunning him, so I don't have to. We can use a double Abyss here. We've got anima charged combo points. We've fully cloned the healer out of the stun lock, so this is a very good setup. We've maintained Rupture and Slice and Dice through the downtime, so we've min-maxed our damage to the best of our ability here. But Feral Druids are just really, really hard to kill. So ultimately they live the chain. chain, they get the life cocoon, and they survive. And I think at this point we're starting to realize like maybe the Feral Druid is not the best target if we want to swap around, but my Symbols of Death is not available. This means that I need to focus on retreating, getting Slice and Dice up, and getting Rupture up, and that's what I'm doing right now. Line of sighting, trying to get into stealth, trying not to be a target, trying to not get bleeds applied to myself while we're waiting for that Symbols of Death. Unfortunately, they do pull me out of stealth. So I kind of panic here and cheap shot, and this is a bad mistake. You never want to really do that unless you absolutely have to, and I didn't absolutely have to in this position, because now it's going to delay our ability to CC the Mistweaver because they're still on stun DR for 13 more seconds. So try not to panic. Sometimes because you have 2 charges of Shadow Dance, you can send like a second one. Usually I'll chain one into the other is what I've found to be pretty effective, so that I've got a big Symbols of Death Shadow Dance into a finisher Shadow Dance to just keep spamming Shadow Strike. Here we sneak in a Hibernate on the Feral Druid. We can run away. Where that stun DR that I messed up earlier is starting to come off. We can see that in the Gladius, so we really want to go for like a stun into Clone of Mistweaver. I think at this time, because we're playing a no voice, we're still going after the Feral Druid. I think it's at this point where I start to realize that my Feral wants to go after the Mistweaver instead, so we start switching up the strategy. You want to be using Feint and Crimson Vial as much as you can here. I should have honestly pressed it, but I set up Cheap Shot onto the Mistweaver and then Cheap Shot onto the Feral Druid, building up combo points, Anima charging, Symbols of Death, Echoing Reprimand, making sure that all those abilities are synced up, making sure the target is stunned throughout that entire time. Probably should have used Mark for Death Kidney Shot instead of Mark for Death Abyss in this position, so the stun was longer on the Feral Druid, because if you don't keep the Feral Druid locked down, they're going to heal up to full. Now we've lost the kill in the stun DR. We got really close, so I'm going to have to start running away. I'm going to pull back to the pillar with Sprint, pop Feint, pop my Crimson Vial, and then focus on getting my combo points forward for Slice and Dice and for Rupture, so that when we get to that next Symbols of Death, we're going to have maximum damage output. And here I'm running into the room, and this is kind of just to bait the Feral Druid. I've yet to kind of perfect how to get a kill with Shadowy Duel, and I think it's mostly because my gear is not best in slot at the moment. I was using Shadowy Duel when targets get kind of low to prevent the healer from getting line of sight. Here we've baited the Feral Druid into the room. We've got some stun DRs, but no Shadow Dance, so I end up using a Vanish defensively, and I'm just going to pull away from the Feral Druid. But we have Shadow Dance coming off cooldown, we have Blind, we have Symbols of Death, so all those cooldowns are starting to sync up together. This is when you want to start thinking about getting aggressive. I'm just waiting in stealth, kind of hoping that the enemy Feral Druid will stun my Druid, because it's way less likely he'll die. Pay attention to enemy targets when they're running behind pillars like this. They're going to drop combat, so I was actually able to get a sap, and I could save Blind for later. We can then open up with Mark for Death Kidney, making sure that the target is stunned as much as possible, and we end up getting a trinket from the Mistweaver. I threw a bomb here. It was really unnecessary to throw this bomb here to try and line sight the Mistweaver. The revival was already connected. Would have likely been a lot better to save this bomb, especially considering we got the Feral's trinket and the Mistweaver's trinket. We do get a Cyclone onto the Monk and continue damage to the Feral Druid, but you can see we spent maybe 3 minutes now attacking the Feral Druid, really not getting a lot. Every time, just always having an answer. So at some point, switching to the healer is going to be important. And I think our team is realizing this against the Mistweaver Feral Druid. If you're fighting Feral Druid healer, tunneling the Feral might not be the best idea overall, but it can be good just for getting trinkets out of the way and pressure. I move away and I try and re-stealth at this point. My Feral Druid is stunned though, so I'm kind of just hoping their stun DRs run out. We're like 1 second away from stun DR for Feral. I end up using Blind before it because again, it's the Berserk from the Feral Druid. My Feral stunned with no trinket. I would rather be safe than sorry here and kind of reset the fight. So I'll just blind sap the Berserk, totally remove the Feral Druid from the fight, allow my Druid to recover, and then we can try and set up for damage because, and also right here, if I had Smoke Bomb, I could just stun this Feral Druid, send every cooldown on the Feral Druid, and then just completely knock them out of the game here with the Monk having no trinket or revival. So big mistake using that Smoke Bomb earlier. I do a Shadowy Duel. So I go for Mark for Death Kidney on Mistweaver. That's to set up for a Cyclone. But I think my Feral Druid ultimately wants to go onto the Mistweaver, and I don't realize that for a second. He actually Cyclones the Feral Druid, but this swap to the Mistweaver actually is going to net us the kill at the end of the game. I think this can be a problem with Subtlety Rogue, is that you get too tunnel visioned on a strategy. You need to be able to switch targets and not just only follow one script, especially paying attention if that one script is just not working anymore, where you're running down one target. So in this position, switching the gears and trying to go after the Mistweaver, I've realized that now that this is what my Feral Dude wants to do with no voice. So we're going to play around this a little bit differently. We're going to stun Feral into Cyclone and try and set up kidneys and burst damage onto the Mistweaver. Here I'm just sitting in stealth again because my Feral Druid is much like their Feral Druid, basically impossible to kill if I just jump in every once in a while when there's stun DRs to assist him. So I'm just going to wait and stealth, not be a target, not let them get any pressure. He gets a full clone on the Feral Druid, so now would be a really good time to start an attack. My Symbols of Death is coming up in 2 seconds. We've got Echoing Reprimand, so we're going to mark for Death Kidney, and we're going to pop all those cooldowns together. Unfortunately, he gets away. The Cyclone ends on the Feral, so I'm thinking he might have dropped combat, so I'm going to try and sap him out of the Cyclone, and then I end up getting a sap with no trinket, and I can start trying to make my way back to the Mistweaver. Probably should have Shadow Step to the Kevin here to get into line of sight, or had my Feral Druid move into my line of sight to Shadow Step to them, but then we just continue to chase down the Mistweaver as he's already low. Use our Anima Charge Eviscerate, which does a huge amount of damage. You want to make sure you're always maxing out those Anima Charges whenever you have them, and just continue to try and run down the Mistweaver. He actually doesn't die at this moment. I could have sworn that he died when I watched this the first time at this point, but I guess he didn't die at this point. We'll use Kick on Cyclone. We'll retreat away using this downtime to try and get our combo points out for Slice and Dice and Rupture. And you can see during that last attempt, I sent both Shadow Dances one after the other to try and like all in the target. So like picking your moment to do that is going to be important for closing the game. We get a Cyclone onto the Feral Druid, so again, I'm thinking, hey, he might drop combat as he comes out of this Cyclone. I'll try and re-stealth, and I'll try and sap. So trying to pay attention to when enemies are moving far out of range or have been sitting in other crowd control effects to try and sap them is kind of a higher level play you can make as a Subtlety Rogue and feel really flashy when you're playing it. Here I can see my Feral Druid is stunned. We've got Stun DR, no Trinket on this Monk. We've got Dance coming up, but we don't have 2 charges, so do we just send the stun? We're going to off-stun the Feral with Mark for Death. We're going to send Symbols onto the Monk. This resets our Shadow Dance. We're going to Shadow Dance and just pump out Eviscerates and Shadow Strikes until ultimately we were able to kill the Mistweaver at the 5-minute mark here. So what I really like about Subtlety is the flexibility, trying to like find this perfect moment with cooldowns flying by and DRs flying by, line them all up together, and then just immediately execute for a kill. It'll feel like you're always in control of the match once you get a feel for it. And like I said throughout this video, to try and simplify it, is like sync up your Symbols, Dance, and your Echoing Reprimand with your Mark for Death. If you don't have these, you want to be focusing on kind of running away, getting Rupture and Slice and Dice up, so that when you do send those, they'll be as amplified as possible, and you'll get a little bit of durability from the Recuperator, and you're going to have an easier time. I used Blind with the double DPS a little bit more defensively to kind of remove the Berserk cooldown of the Feral Druid, but using that offensively is still a good option. That's going to kind of be a personal choice or personal flavor thing, and I'm still new to the spec, so I'm sure that not everything I've done in this match is 100% perfect, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what's been generating success for me throughout my progress learning the specialization as I'm trying to climb the ranks, and share with you just how fun and great it is in case you want to check it out. So other than that, if you liked the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. If you like this type of content and you want to stay ahead of the competition, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and join the fam. Other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.